Hey guys, it's the Man in Black here, and I hope I'm not being too sparse on these. Honestly, when I do get time to focus on this lately, I've just been focusing on trying to pound out that word count. I'm really behind and doing the best I can to work on stuff with everything else going on in my life. So, with that, I'm going to try and remember to make sure I'm getting these done, a bit more quickly. In the meantime, just give some thoughts about where I'm at. I actually wrote a really interesting scene last night, today, whatever you want to call it. But it's essentially finally the team come together as a team. Up to this point, I presented each of their roles. Given this character's a smart one. This one's the martial artist. This one's this. Except for, alright, if I'm going to go in for an inch, go in for a mile. Except for the Red Ranger, I hadn't really established her. I mean, I'd given her these bits and pieces to know that she's there. She's not necessarily to be trifled with. That she, is a good person, but really nothing substantial in terms of how she would, what her role in the team would be. And I finally wrote that scene where essentially she just comes in like that missing puzzle piece and snaps everything together and proves really why she gets to be the Red Ranger, other than simply the fire thing matching her personality. So that was really fun to write, just because it really felt like I was accomplishing something, even though it's still part of the introduction. And yes, it kills me that we're 2/3 of the way through the month and I'm still in what I consider to be the introduction. It's a long introduction, but still, I really hope I can get this through on time, and I'm really upset with myself that I haven't. I'm really going to focus on catching up with that. But still, it really feels like the end of a chapter, that everything's snapping in and we're ready to move forward with the real story, and that is the Ranger stories. So the next 5 chapters that I'm going to be writing are one for each Ranger. Each Ranger has their own conflict, their own thing with their life, their own thing with combat, and they're each going to have to deal with it in their own way. And the big part now for me is to make sure that each one really gets through what it needs to, and 2, that each one is unique, because 2 of the stories are 2 of the stories especially are kind of similar in certain ways. If you look at it strictly superficially, there's one way you can look at it that they're the exact same thing, and there's another way you can look at it that they're not alike in any way, just depending on what type of superficially you're looking at. So I'm really going to try to go down that middle line, and they're not going to be back to back. That would be a killer right there. But either way, I'm trying to make sure that they really have different things going for them. And yet they also don't. So, but then again, this is still something that a lot of kids this age are going to experience, and the important thing isn't necessarily that they're different stories, but that they show different points of view, because 2 people experiencing the same thing do not necessarily have the same experience, especially in high school when there's all kinds of distractions and experiences, and one person has this experience but not this one, the other person is the opposite. So that's really going to be the important part in these stories. And of course, the combat part of the resolution, it's a bit easier to keep that unique, because they each have very distinctive strengths and weaknesses in combat, whereas real life is a bit more complicated than that. So I'm glad to have you guys along for the ride, and as usual, if you have any questions, if anybody's been asking questions and I haven't seen them, due to I honestly don't know much about the new comment policy, so if that's actually affecting me from getting notifications, if you've commented and I haven't responded to you in some way, then go ahead, email me, reviewerinblack@gmail.com, and I'll make sure to answer in the next video. If that's the case, I apologize. I don't think that's the case. I've been trying to keep up on it, but as I said, I've been a bit distracted with the actual writing. So, look forward to any questions you guys have, and I look forward to continuing with this thing. And I'm back out.